Hi, so today I will be showing you the Dialogflow chatbot that we developed for Rocket Elevators. So at first, the requirements were to get a bunch of data back from the database through the chatbot. So I can say, give me the stats. So, greetings. There are currently 400 elevators deployed in the 100 buildings of your 100 customers. Currently, 164 elevators are not in running status and are being serviced, and so on and so forth. So, this is what the requirement was all about. We have all of these numbers that are coming from the database directly. So, yeah, this is one part of it. Also, we developed an intervention. So essentially, I can say create an intervention. So what is the product and ID? I'll say column 46. Okay. What is the author ID? 2. What is the customer ID? 87. So the intervention was created successfully. And to make sure that it is really created inside the database, here we have the interventions table inside of the deployed database. And if I hit F5, it is right there. So author 2, customer 87, column ID 46, and this was created using the chatbot. Now, for the intent side of things, the first big query that we have here is the all data. So the intent all data is triggered by how big is Rocket Elevators or what are the stats or give me the stats. And essentially, when we tell that to the chatbot, it'll call a function inside the fulfillment script. So here, if I go down, the all data intent will call the function allo, and that function essentially has the URL that gets all of the data, and it returns a response from Axios. Axios does the get request to the URL, and the chatbot, responds with all of the data that we set it to. And essentially, for the create intervention, it's pretty much the same. Here we have the function. So this is a little bit different since we are using context. So all of the intents are linked through context. So here are the contexts. Here are the variables that I'm going to that I need to fetch to build the form. And this is the URL to create the form. And again, with Axios, it'll post URL in the form and return the intervention was created successfully. So down there also, the last intent before calling the create intervention is customer ID. So if I go inside of my intents, it all the way starts at intervention here. I say create an intervention. So the response is what is the product ID? And I'm outputting a context called awaiting product ID. So now if I go back into product ID, I am inputting the context product ID, and I'm outputting the author ID, and I am inputting essentially the product and the ID that I set as parameters to get the data inside of the script. And I am again asking what is the author ID, and it is essentially the same for the customer. Customer has an input of customer and calls the function instead of the fulfillment folder. So yeah, that's pretty much how everything is linked and worked. Thanks.
Hey everyone, so let's have a look at the Alexa skill we built this week. So we called it Rocket Elevators. The invocation name will also be Rocket Elevators, and we've got a couple intents that we built here, which I'll show you afterwards. I'm just going to show you what it does first. Go to the test panel, just write rocket elevators. It's just gonna pull out all the information in the database and tell us what's happening there. I'm just gonna stop it because she's gonna talk forever, but as you can see, everything in here is all the information we need. We can also get the status of an elevator. So intent name and then invocation name, it's going to give us the status. So that elevator is idle, and we can also create an intervention with a dialogue flow with Alexa. So create an intervention in the elevators. Just going to ask us questions. So let's just do elevator, author ID, doesn't matter. Find an employee, and she says done. So if we come here, look at dbeaver, refresh it, you can see there was a intervention added. So we've got the author, customer ID, and then building whatever. They didn't put it in because we just asked the intervention on the elevator, and we've got the employee ID. And the report, we just put this was created using Alexa. And yeah, status and everything result is always the same. So that's pretty much it for the demonstration. We can go have a look at the intents we built. Pretty basic ones. Beginning, get remote data is the big one. So we can either say rocket elevators or just what's going on at rocket elevators. You can see in the code what it is later. Elevator status. So different codes here. We pass it the ID as a parameter, and it's set as an Amazon number. So it just sends the ID to the API and then gets the information back. And we got two intervention. That one was just the basic one that we gave it the elevator and the ID, or the product and the ID, and then it would just create put that into the database, but it wasn't complete, so we created a custom one with all the information. I created a slot product, which actually you can just put in. I can't figure out where it is right now, but you can either put battery, elevator, or column. And yeah, I should be in the slot types, and there we can see it here. Column, battery, elevator. And for each different parameter, if we click on it, there's a question that Alexa asks us to complete the form. And once all of it is done, it just sends it to the API and puts it in the database. So if we have a look at the code really quickly, they're pretty much all the same. Yeah, so the big one here, it just outputs everything we need. So elevators, buildings, customers, whatever. And if we have a look at the custom intervention here, I just defined all the variables, and then depending on which product we give it, the only thing that changes is the product ID, just to associate it to the correct column and then enter it in the database. Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. It just sends a request and puts it in the database. All right, so we'll see you later.